Miss Bailey,
Here.
Dr. Cable, Miss Coleman,
Present.
Dr. Davis, Dr. Henderson, Miss Lawson,
Here.
Miss Talbert,
Present.
Miss Merrick's,
Here.
Mr. Powell. He's here. He just texted me. And Mr. Durrell. You have 6 present, which does represent a quorum.
All right. Thank you. Let's hope Mr. Powell just didn't get overwhelmed with everything. All right. Next, we have the I think the certification for the virtual meeting. You've seen that, and then we go to what, introductions and announcements. Are there any?
We have any.
We don't have any today. All right. Next, we have the approval of the minutes from January 13th. If you've had a chance to read those over and see your name in the minutes for making a motion or seconding a motion from last time, could I have a motion to approve the minutes, please?
It's Christy. I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Christy. Second, please.
Amy Merrick, second.
Thank you, Amy. All right. It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes as presented. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Good, thank you. All right, moving on. Public comment. Did we have any?
Nothing as of yet.
Thank you. All right, and now we get to program updates. And the first is the savings program. Ms. Underwood?
Good morning. How are y'all doing this
We're
morning?
doing well, thank you.
Good. Thank you. Next slide, Rhonda. Thank you. As you can tell, this is our numbers for the end of December 2021. As you can tell, we've been extremely busy. Next slide, Rhonda. This is our 2020 to 2021 comparison. As you can see, in all areas, we've increased the number of new accounts. And I think the closed accounts are a mixture of folks being in a bad financial position with COVID, as well as we've reached a point with the program that a lot of disbursements are being made to the point that the accounts zero out. So I think a mixture of those two caused the increase from the year prior. Of course, contributions up 18 million. And then disbursements, you can see those are up as well. So with ABLE, we continue to be busy with new accounts for the new rep payees, since they can open for their clients in the case of a living facility. So they've really welcomed that. K-12 interest has been brisk since the residents are hearing of the new state tax deduction that went into effect for the 2022 tax year. Of course, they can now claim $1,200 as a single filer and $2,400 as a joint filer for the year. START has been transitioned from our focus on at the end of the year deposits to spring disbursements. We're now reimbursing the family members to pay their tuition and various fees. So that's where we are. Did anyone have any questions this morning?
Question, remind me. Why don't remind me would assume that I remembered it. I knew in the first place. What happens when you close an account to that money that's in there?
Then you close an account, a START account. Typically, if you close it and you've got fees, then it goes either to the school, to the beneficiary, or to the account owner. If they close it as a refund, then the check would go either to the account owner or to the beneficiary that's named by the account owner if they want it to go that way. Then they, of course, like an IRA, they would pay a 10% earnings penalty.
Okay.
Yeah, it works like an IRA where they would take tax. They'd have taxes on the earnings as well as penalties. They would have to claim the deduction. If they'd taken any previous deductions, they'd have to claim those on their state taxes in the year of withdrawal, and they forfeit those earning enhancements as
Right.
well.
Well, you had mentioned that you believe that some of the people some counts were closed because of COVID, circumstances caused by
Absolutely agree that.
COVID.
I've talked to people, they just got in a financial position due to job loss, things of that nature.
And so they withdraw the money that they have put in and pay whatever is due to other parties.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Anybody else have any questions? Okay, next is PIC update. Miss.
Yes, thank you very much. So for those who don't know me, I'm Shane Crapell. I was brought in at the end of September as the Collegiate and Community Outreach Administrator for PIC, but we have some updates for the division, one of which is a new name. So we will now be known as the Division of College Access, Success, and Communications. Ebony Holmes and I will be serving as co-directors. I will be the Director of Collegiate and Community Outreach, and Ebony will be serving as the Director of Public Information and Advising. So we're reframing our focus a little bit. We are going to shift away from primarily focusing on communications. That's still going to be a very important part of what it is that we're doing. But we're really going to focus on supporting students and families through the college journey from the time they start thinking about college to completion. So what are our services, our resources, the programs that we have, our intervention strategies, where we can work to break down barriers and to increase access to college in Louisiana, to increase our TOPS acceptance, to increase our applications, FAFSA completion, et cetera, because we want to try to do as much as we can to address the decline in enrollment that we're seeing, not just in Louisiana, but nationwide. We're also going to be hiring a communication strategist who will be focusing on a renewed communications plan that is going to have a targeted outreach plan for specific demographics that we're serving, focusing on our adult learners too. We want to make sure that we are increasing the enrollment of adult learners and the support services that we offer as well. We're also going to be focusing on partnering with our school counselors so that we can improve our advising, which will also help with college access, and making sure that our communications plan is targeted so that we're reaching as many people as possible about LOSFA's programs and scholarships and services. Next slide, please. I know it takes a second to show up. There we go. So for our virtual sessions that we have, our virtual office hours, since we went, well, since March of 2020, when everything changed, we started doing more virtual outreach. We have completed a total of 2,038 virtual office hours and have a total of 714 virtual events that we have held. Our professional development that we have for our team members are really focused on helping students as well as focused on helping students and families and improving college access. What is it that we can do in order to improve college access, success, and completion? Next slide, please. So January 18th, we also had our agency-wide staff meeting. This was something that came about due to feedback from our employee engagement survey. There was a need for increased communication among the divisions and the team members that we have here. You know, sometimes we tend to work in silos, and we want to do everything that we can in order to break down these silos, create community among our team members, increase collaboration. And so that was a huge focus of this. Dr. Boutte, as always, gave a very rousing and inspiring welcome address. She always makes you feel like you're making a difference and that we have a goal, we have a vision. And we got some feedback from our team members afterwards. And their insights, a lot of the things that came from that have already been implemented, and we are continuing to look at to make sure that all of the staff members of the agency feel heard know that their concerns are being listened to, and knowing that we are constantly trying to improve the employee experience as well as serve the families and students of the state of Louisiana. We also focused on getting to know each other and are going to continue ways to break down those silos and to continue to create community among the team members, even during these virtual times that we have. Next slide, please. Our division also recently created our new ACT guide.
Yeah.
This is an additional resource that's going to help students understand the waiver that exists that students could be eligible for. And also to make sure that students understand the registration process. There have been some incidents where students thought they were fully registered for the ACT, and the day of the ACT comes and they realize that they were not. So we want to make sure that we are providing targeted information that lets students know everything that they need to do in order to complete the registration, what they need to have when they show up, as well as what they need to do to prepare for the ACT, including some links to some free test prep resources as well. We know that the more students practice for the ACT, the better that they do, which is obvious, but it's nice to have that backed by some data. Next, please. Ebony Holmes and Ms. Livonia Malvo of our division and student engagement were co-presenters at the Jumpstart Convention, where they focused on the funding opportunities that are available for post-secondary career training. So they talked about the new MJ Foster Promise Program, TOPS Tech, and other ways that LOSFA can support and engage the students of Louisiana. We are focused on continuing this kind of outreach, working with community partners, business industry, everyone that we can in order to expand the use of our LOSFA programs, particularly to our adult learners that we have. And then we have another initiative that we're focusing on with professional development and certifications. We have our Incan certified advisors. We have two of our team members, Brian Cook and Kayla Groh, who have completed their training. And there are, it's well over 20 hours of training that has to take place in order to get this badge. And it focuses on all kinds of different components that you need in order to complete the certification. So admissions advising, career advising, engagement, financial aid advising, as well as cultural competencies, inclusive student advising, and how to increase persistence and completion rates. It's one thing to get students to apply and to enroll, but we really have to make sure that they're persisting and that they are crossing that finish line and completing in order to help reach that Board of Regents master plan goal of 60% of our adult population having some kind of post-secondary certification. And that is all that I have for our division update. Happy to answer any questions.
Does anybody have any questions before I ask mine? I want to really commend you on the ACT guide, because that jumped out at me as something new. How will students know that that's available?
Well, one of the things that we're doing, of course, is partnering with our field outreach services, but that's only a small population of the students that we need to target. We're really looking to increase our outreach and partnerships with our school counselors.
Okay.
That is key in order to get a lot of this a lot of these resources to our students. Posting it on social media, there are so many people who don't follow you on social media. They don't know that it exists. So really trying to find ways to better that partnership with our school counselors, making sure that we are sharing resources that are targeted, that aren't overwhelming. You can certainly give too much information and students and parents get lost in that. So that's the main way that we're looking to do that, through field outreach services, to our Gear Up schools, and then through our school counselors.
Ms. Coleman, we will also, the ACT guide will be posted on our website. And so as soon as we get that posted, I'll send out a counselor communication to our guidance counselors, letting them know that that is posted. So, and we also will post that in a variety of places on our website. So it's going to be under our counselor corner. It will also be under our financial aid corner, and it will also be under TOPS. So when they go to our website, they can access that document from several different places on the website.
Oh, I knew it would be well done. I just didn't know how. I have another, this is a kind of a little sidebar here. If you were advising a person, and this may be for the counselors and for the rest of you, if you were advising a person to, let's say, sophomore, junior in high school, what's the best place to enter and to get into and get started on the LOSFA website? Where should they go first? Do they go to, I'm drawing a blank on that program where they test their skills and what they want to do? I mean,
Unlock My Future.
Yes.
It's unlockmyfuture.org.
Yes. I mean, I just don't know. I think we put an awful lot on counselors. And I'm just wondering, how do we say to someone, because often, we're out and you can say to someone, well, send your son or daughter to here, go look here. And because there's just an awful lot of information.
Well, one of the things as a freshman, and especially freshman and sophomore, one of the things that we tend to emphasize is making sure they're meeting the core curriculum requirements. So those flyers are also on our website under the TOPS information, but we kind of revamped the when we revamped the website, we made it to where it's more like, there's a spot for students and parents to go to learn about TOPS and financial aid and all that. And there's a spot for counselors, and there's a spot for policymakers, different things like that.
Right.
So, but that's where we would direct them to go.
Okay. Thank you. Now I have a correction to something that you said. You said, Mr. Kreppel, that she made
Krapel, sorry.
Krapel, thank you. No, my apologies. That feel like you are making a difference. No, you really are making a difference. All of you really do make a difference. And you're a true state agency. Not all state agencies can say that, but this staff, this state agencies, it's not feel like you're making a difference. You really are making a difference, a tremendous amount. When you look at all of these things that are available, you are making a difference. And that's just my correction for today. Does anybody else have any comments before we move on? Okay,
This is Christy. As a school counselor, I am looking forward to working with you and having this information be so readily available. I've been hoping for something like this, and I'm so glad to see that you guys have moved in that direction and are making waves with it. So thank you.
And Christy, we have some more resources that we are developing that we'll be sending out, one of which is an application guide. We've been working on it for a while, but we want to make sure that it has all the information that it needs in there without cluttering it up and being too much. So we are trying to develop these resources in order to make the job of our school counselors when it comes to college access as easy as possible.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
And I'm sure you all saw in the February 3rd, I'm going to mispronounce it, the Hechinger report. They did note that in Louisiana, state officials have gotten students excited about what seems like a tedious task by turning it into a competition among high schools. And that was all written up about how Louisiana is doing so well with the FAFSA. And that's in the Higher Education Hechinger report, February 3rd. So again, you really are making a difference. So now, any other comments, questions? Thank you all. Student engagement.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. As Rhonda advances the next slide, I just want to start off by announcing the successful launch of our newest student network group that involving the information technology and computing information systems for students that are majoring in that discipline. So our launch looks like we have a model that we're working with our NSU partners there, the department there under the leadership of Dr. Curtis Penrod met with us, and we were able to successfully kick off with some of the students there because of their program they have established and because of their influx of students that we currently have engaged with our other networks. So we were also able to feature one of our newest volunteer professional that's from the IT field. And in fact, on the screenshot to the left, you'll see her addressing the group, where one student even commented that it was so good to see and connect with that professional that was from the IT medical field. So that group was the only group that we held in full force of that launch, but we were able to already embed them in our January launch of our regular network groups, where we featured all 4 disciplines at the same time in one meeting as we kicked off the spring semester, recognizing that our various colleges and universities had various start dates for the spring schedule. And so we just held that meeting jointly. So we were excited. This launch, we are kicking off with 12 students, and we're looking to grow it as the model that we have created with the NSU staff and their department. We're now replicating it with other colleges and universities in onboarding the students. And this is in addition to whatever marketing or strategies that we are partnering with our fellow newly CASC, formerly PIC communications division. So Rhonda, if you go to the next slide, I would like to share a little bit more of other work that we did in the month, where we had a reach out from one of the local community-based organizations that was seeking to do college access work on their own. So they reached out to the Student Engagement Division and asked to partner. And what we did, we met with some of our field outreach staff and making sure that as these were secondary students, normally our focus in our student engagement has been on the post-secondary side, but this particular business, this community organization, was a fitness center. And part of their clientele involved high school students, of which they recognized these students were lacking the zest, the drive, the self-initiative to establish their career portfolio, so to speak. And so rather than doing the work for them, we're doing the work with them as we're using this first endeavor to, I guess, create a platform to whereby as we do outreach to those sectors of our state that may not be receiving current traditional Gear Up or field outreach services, that we can tap in by providing them with technical assistance on just how to service their youth population. And so, as you see on this particular slide, we've had our initial meeting in the month of January, which was primarily an introductory meeting where we got to know one another. As was already referenced, the use of the Padlet tool, we use this as an engagement tool for them to get to know us and for us to get to know them. And there's various ways. Future meetings would look like, how do we help them tap into their future? So we're going to be using the Unlock My Future website that you just referenced, that we're borrowing from our field outreach colleagues. We're going to be using the Claim Your Future virtual game that Dr. Cobb referenced on last month's update. And so just kind of incorporating those tools and working with our fellow LOSFA team members to engage populations of our community that may not know who LOSFA is or all the awesome work that LOSFA does. If you proceed on, Rhonda, excuse me.
Wait, Ms. Malvo. Could you back up one more, Rhonda, back up to Ms. Malvo's prior slide? If you all look at the Padlet on the left for Ms. Malvo, that's her deal. Ms. Malvo, can you zoom in on the pet goat? Ms. Malvo had a pet goat named Treble. Padlet is an amazing feature that we are using to engage our staff and our students. And this is one example of it over on the left, so that you get to know more about a person and people get to react to what that person is saying or doing or sharing, and everyone can actually share simultaneously. But I when Ms. Malvo sent me this, and I'm like, wait, I've worked with her for a long time, did not know these things. So thank you, Ms. Malvo.
All right, Dr. Boutte. Yes, indeed. So again, that tool was very engaging. The students, even though we have not met with them since the 27th, they are working to add to the same Padlet, telling their own stories so that we can get to know them. As we move forward, Rhonda, this time. What we also did in the month of January, as Shane Crapel already alluded to, we had the awesome opportunity of collabing, partnering with our fellow CASC members in doing a joint presentation at the annual Department of Education Jumpstart Conference. Again, we had two separate sessions of which we presented, as Shane already provided, information on the MJ Fosters and other financial aid, but also we utilized this as an opportunity to connect with these secondary level school counselors, district administrators about the network groups so that we can have as early on board with students that are exiting secondary, transitioning into the post-secondary area so that they can know of the services and resources that awaits them through LOSFA there. So we're excited about this. Is just one of our first of many association meetings, our conferences that we're going to partner with in getting this information out. Looking forward to other opportunities to collaborate. Ms. Marianne Coleman, you had a question earlier regarding the ACT and the decline and all of that. We're looking to launch some focus groups to whereby we can hopefully address. This is done in partnership across LOSFA divisions so that as we show that truly collaborative spirit and direction that LOSFA is going to affect change in Louisiana across various populations. We have one more slide, Robin, I believe, and this is the one that we, again, through the Student Engagement Division, we spent the bulk of our month of January just planning out 2022. As you may recall, we were not fully operational in the entire year of 2021. I came on board in May, so almost halfway of the year, a month before the end of the fiscal year. But nonetheless, we are excited about what awaits us in year 2022. What we're going to do, as outlined here, we created on the left just a listing of some of the highlights of some of the planning that we have done. We did it utilizing the Padlet tool that we'll feature in a future meeting. But nonetheless, what we are zeroing in on trying to grow student awareness of our groups. We're looking at increasing our student number of participants by 70%. We had an awesome showing in the 7 months that we had. I think we did 150 something students that we oriented. Well, we're targeting 300 by year end. And I think the strategies that we're going to be employing will help us get to those numbers. One of significance has been that of professional development for our student engagement staff as well, seeking those Incan certifications, seeking opportunities to do more grant writing to support the work that we're doing within the network beyond state funding. The last item I would like to feature is showing the work that we're also engaging with collaboratively with community organizations throughout the state and with other state agencies. So hopefully by next month, we will be able to report back the successful completion of procuring a 211 license. We will be the fourth, maybe the fourth, if not fifth state agency that has such, but what will be unique to this license agreement with 211 is that LOSFA will be the first to have a public-facing search engine. So you might say, so what? Well, this will enable our students to access whatever social services are needed, that braided wraparound funding mandate that LOSFA has been charged with, making sure as we launch the MJ Foster's Promise program, that students know what supports await them. So as so many of our other state agencies have already engaged 211 service, which has become the norm nationally, but within the state of Louisiana, normally when there was a disaster in place, 211 is the go-to for that information. Well, now 211 will be the go-to for all things education, resources, supports, and what have you there. So we're having meetings with the Louisiana Association of United Way, who administers and oversees the operation of Louisiana's statewide network. And yeah, we're excited about this and we'll keep you all posted. I think that's all I have for today.
That's great. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions? Comments? Okay, moving on to the LOSFA Field Outreach Services, Dr. Cobb.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, first off, I want to just say happy School Counselors Week to Ms. Lawson. And I know we're live, so definitely happy School Counselors Week to all the counselors who are tuning in and who work with our programs around the state. We appreciate you all so much.
Thank you.
You're so very welcome. Okay, next slide, please. So on this slide, we wanted to actually highlight our professional development that we've actually done with the schools we work with. On the left side of the screen, we actually hosted a LOSFA Gear Up Professional Development, and it was entitled "What's Trending? Current Issues in College Access and Success." So what was really special about this series, it was part 2 of a 4-part series. So we did 1 last fall. This is part 2. And this part was actually led by our students. So what does that mean? Students from our schools actually presented in this session to the school staff. So to the teachers, the school counselors, the administrators, about what they're actually doing through their clubs in their schools. So the way we had this set up, working with our national partner, which is INCEP, so the National Council for Community and Educational Partnerships, which that's INCEP. They're the organization that provides technical assistance for Gear Up programs around the country. So in partnership with them, we actually worked on the design of this particular session where at the national level, Kelly Pappas from INCEP, who is the director of college and career clubs, actually spoke on, the importance of clubs at the national level, the importance of clubs at the local level, why clubs are important. And also, she was very instrumental in talking about the research around clubs, specifically the clubs that we use, the curriculum that we use for our clubs within our Gear Up program. And the recent data that was released this past fall that came from ACT suggests that the college and career club curriculum that we use within the context of Gear Up can increase students' college and career readiness by supporting and building their social and emotional skills, their post-secondary knowledge, and their educational intentions. So she talked about it at the national level. So why do we have these clubs in schools? Comparing it to, having DECA clubs, having beta clubs, but we have a college and career club that we call Explorers Club. So bringing it full circle. And then the students came behind her and they actually talked about specific clubs that they have in their school that are focused on certain areas. So as you can see on the screen, we had students talk about entrepreneurship from Carroll High School. We had students talk about Educators Rising, which is another club for educators, actually students being developed as educators, knowing more about how to become an educator. And that was by Florine High School. And Lincoln Prep, they talked a lot about advocacy and the advocacy work that they do within their clubs and how they talk to their elected officials and their school board members and peers, and they post about why college and career readiness is important, why Gear Up is important, and what it has actually done for their school. And finally, we actually had a student from East St. John talk about her internship experience through the Global Geospatial Institute, that club that they actually have at that school. And through those experiences, the students shared, and then we had breakout sessions where the school staff were able to reflect and actually share amongst themselves in terms of what are they doing and share their best practices with each other in terms of how the clubs are operating. We received some excellent feedback. They love to hear from the students, and the students participate with them. So just really proud of our students and the work they did with our staff and the work they did for the other program staff for that particular professional development. On the right side, we had the first PD, the first part of the day, so 10, 11:30, and then we came right back and we had more of a technical assistance webinar, because we understand we're asking schools to do a lot as it pertains to college and career readiness, in terms of all of these initiatives and all of the deliverables that they have to actually share with our office. So what we have tried to do for several years now is actually have them hear from their peers. So we actually had Southeast Middle School who could speak to the middle school implementation of program, and Broadmoor High School speak to the high school implementation of the program. And they actually spoke as a panel and ask questions and provide resources and tools in terms of how they're actually getting it done with the initiatives towards college and career readiness and success at their level, and were able to, receive feedback. So that went over really well. And it's really important because now amidst COVID, not knowing if the building is going to be shut down, if they're going to move to online, is very, I believe, critical to hear from the people in the building who are able to get it done in spite of everything that's going on. And that was very well received as well. Next slide, Rhonda. On this slide, we're actually highlighting two of our schools that we work with. These are two schools that are in the north. Carroll High School. As you see at the top, these are a list of some of the events that they're doing. LCAM, is a statewide initiative that we do. Louisiana College and Application Access Month. These are the students that actually participated. They had 39 of their students who actually participated in it. And 14 of those seniors have already been accepted. They know where they're going, as we're constantly working with them. In the middle, you actually see the campus field trips that they've actually done, whether in person or virtual. So the school is still, Carroll is still instrumental in making sure that the students are getting the exposure. They're actually able to be wise post-secondary consumers in terms of this is what these campuses have to offer according to their match and fit. And on the right side of that, FAFSA completion workshop. So at the time we actually put this information together, Carroll High School was at 60%. They're currently at 63%, which is way above the national average, which is around 34% right now. So really pleased with them. And if you look at the quotes down here, the students are, just really excited about, having the experiences, having the services at their fingertips, right there for them, supporting them at their school. And as you see, Lamaya Bessa here, she was one of our students who actually presented to the adults. And if you read that quote, you see that that was an honor for her to actually present about her entrepreneurship program that she has participated in at her school. So just really good to, have that, bring that full circle. On the right side of our screen, we are so proud of Caitlin Apperly. She's a 12th grader. She's one of our Gear Up students at WASMA. She was actually featured in the news where she has been offered over $1.5 million in scholarships, and two of those are full ride. These are all of the highlights about Caitlin. But what I really want to point out is about all of the activities that she's participated in with our program. So from campus field trip supports to college and career advising, college application. So yes, to be able to get accepted to 37 College, you do need to fill out the application. So what does that mean? We've assisted her in college application, college match and fit. So, do these colleges have, your program of study? Can you actually get into them? Obviously, yes, if she's been accepted to 37, but being that she's participated in all these activities, we are so proud of her that, she is at a place where now it's about, hey, determining which one will you actually attend according to where you want to be. And she has a whole lot to actually choose from. And so we'll definitely be working with her on that, but definitely wanted to highlight her just excellent work and her excellent being able to optimize the services that we actually provide to her in her school. So that's so very great. So next slide, please, Wanda. So winning workshop at Terrell High School, and I'll just give you a little preview of what we're going to say next month. So you just heard about $1.5 million. We have a student at Terrell High School. We're not talking about it now, but she actually was offered 4.5 million. So that, it's just like they're blowing my mind at the scholarships and what these students are able to do. But in this winning workshop at Terra High School, our Connected Success partners, Southeastern and Northwestern actually teamed up to actually do this workshop and actually, engage students on how to just be mindful, goal setting, how to actually connect with post-secondary, prepare for the ACT, and just understand what post-secondary is really like. And as you see from the quotes here, they talked about time management. And I really love what Justin Medina said. He basically said he's going to take what he learned and use it right now. So as an 11th grader, he's not waiting until he gets to college. He needs to use some of that time management right now. So I just love it. So just really encouraged about the great work that our partners are actually doing with our schools, and our schools actually interacting with our partners to get it done, and also our regional coordinators working with them as well. And so finally, on this right side of the screen, we shared about this last year. So transition events. So this was our first transition event that we had done. In transition, we mean helping students transition from secondary to post-secondary. So we worked with Northwestern last year on doing this as a virtual event, and they had their first year experience team there. They had admissions, they had they had BIPC, so the feeder 2-year was there. So they did an excellent job with interacting with the students virtually to do this transition event to get them, ready to go to college. And so just wanted to report back and say that 91% of those seniors, so 32 seniors actually attended that virtual event last spring, and 91% of them, or 29 of them, actually transitioned. So we were really excited about that data. And of the 3 who did not, one of them is actually working. So that student earned an OSHA certification through the Jumpstart pathway, and they are working, have a solid job that they're working in. So still a success. So we're really excited about that. So what does that mean for the future? So as we are preparing for a host of transition events, as you see, these are the top 15 institutions where our 2020 graduates matriculated to. And we're using this as a base to say, okay, we do transition events this year. Which institutions do we need to actually make sure we're connected with to do these events? So this is a list of the institutions where we are in the process of right now scheduling transition events this spring, like the one that Northwestern did, to make sure that our students are transitioning from secondary to post-secondary successfully. And as Shane said, they can persist and complete, because ultimately that is what we want. So that's all I have. If you have any questions.
That's great. Thank you very much. Anybody have any questions or comments? Okay, scholarships and grants, Ms. Paul.
Good morning, everyone. I will, okay, thanks for advancing the slide. The first slide is on our BESI tuition program for teachers. We just received yesterday the billing request for the spring semester. We only had 2 in the fall, but we actually will have 8 teachers that'll be taking STEM-related courses across our state for the spring 2022 semester. So that's a significant increase from the fall amount. Our Go Grant allocation for 21-22 was $40.4 million. And we used almost half of that amount. The remaining is $20 million. And I can tell you the schools are starting to process. They had to wait until their 14th class day had elapsed in order to bill for Go Grant. But I just approved 88 pages of Go Grant requests that's going to process tonight for tomorrow. So we should see that $20 million balance continue to decrease as schools are identifying students and awarding them the Go Grant for the spring 22 semester. And we've already processed, I think, Louisiana Tech's winter bill, and they'll have a spring bill later on in March. Next slide. John R. Justice, which is our program for our public defenders and prosecutors who perform in the public sector. We had 6 applicants for public defenders, and that 2 of the applicants decided not to apply for the program. So we were able to give an additional amount to the remaining 4 public defenders, which that was processed yesterday, $975, which helps decrease their total student loan indebtedness without any additional service with that. I just asked for an update. Our application period started on January 1st. And as of now, which is still early, we have 15 applications. 6 are public defenders and 9 are prosecutors. We traditionally have more prosecutor applications, but that award is small. It's $1,950, and our public defender award at $3,900. We will be applying for the program when the solicitation comes out later this spring. And there may be some extra money, we don't know, in the John R. Justice program, but it does help. We were looking at the list, and one student one attorney, public defender in the New Orleans area, he's been in the program since its inception in 2011.
Wow.
So we were just looking, he has a large amount of his student loan debt that has been eliminated as a result of John R. Justice. So I'm thinking with that, and then the public service forgiveness loan program, he may retire without any loan debt as a public defender in our New Orleans area. So that was an interesting fact I noticed. Our Go You Challenge program, we are starting to process those awards for the spring. I think we have 2 that have been submitted, and we'll be processing those as they come along. Are there any questions? I didn't mention completed grants. Are you going to talk about that with Dr. Boutte, or would you like me to?
You can talk about it.
Yeah, it's not on our list, but we know the completers grant is money received from the GEAR funding through the COVID Relief Act, and it is to incentivize or help those students to finish their degree program once they have less than 30 hours. So we had 13 million, and we just processed like over $500,000 just recently. So the schools are starting to use those funds and identify students. So we are in great anticipation that by the end of the summer, when the program ends, we will have expended the entire $13 million. And that's it. Let's have a questions.
Anybody have any questions, comments? Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. Dr. Boutte?
All right, I am here. Andrew, can you please do a screen share of the Padlet tool that we used for the execs, the agency-wide staff meeting, so that our board members can see what we mean? So we are very, very excited about this because, this is a wonderful tool for engagement virtually, because literally everyone can talk at the same time. So what we did is we had an engagement survey, and the staff meeting focused on a follow-up to that engagement survey. So what happens in Padlet is you put this tool up with these STEM questions at the top, and people, as you can see, can remain anonymous, which is the strength of it, because that means, you can say what you need to say and what you want to say, or you can sit back and not do any comments in writing, but you can go back and and give a thumbs up or a thumbs down to comments others have done. And all of this occurs simultaneously. So yes, you're participating in a Padlet exercise, you can literally see. And what we were really pleased about is that even after we finished the agency-wide staff meeting, which we held to an hour purposefully to let our team members know, we know that you're busy, we know that you're doing critical work and we value your time, but we also value your input. Individuals actually still went back and used the link and commented. So we were able to actually send this out to our team members and then begin to work on, and this is how we're demonstrating that we heard you. So we just wanted you to be able to see LOSFA in action with its team, this awesome team that you're getting to hear from. And thank you so much, Andrew, for doing this, and Ms. Malvo for facilitating the Padlet with Mr. Crapell and Ebony Holmes, and just putting together a committee of folks to be able to find more ways to effectively engage our audiences virtually. Okay, thank you, Andrew. Okay, now Rhonda, we can share next the TOPS funding update. Okay, so this is something that we definitely wanted our advisory board to hear first. We will be presenting this to the Board of Regents at a February meeting. We will also be presenting this and providing this report to House and Senate fiscal staff because for the first year, we are actually, since I've remembered, we are actually going to return. We have a surplus of TOPS funds. You've been through these meetings before where we've had to ask for a little or for a lot. And so this is $8.4 million that we will return, and that's a conservative estimate. We feel we will be able to return those dollars and still fund all folks that are eligible to attend summer school. So when you have something like that, you know, 8.4 million to the public sounds like that's a huge number. I didn't say it wasn't a lot of money, but when you look at it in totality to the grand scheme of the TOPS projection, it's 2.5% of the dollars. But you still have to ask yourself, what is causing there to be this surplus? And so this is what this mini report attempts to address. So the first thing that you see is the top two reasons for decline or return or the surplus. The first one is a decrease in high school graduates processed, and the second one is the decline in the acceptance rates of TOPS eligible students. You see there, and if you can scoot it up just a bit, Rhonda, so that you can see that entire chart underneath it, arrow up just a bit.
Can I arrow up
While
too
she's
much?
doing that, okay, yeah. There you go. That's the spirit. Keep going. There we go. Okay, great. Perfect, Ron. All right, so the first thing that you're seeing when you look at the high school graduates processed, you'll see that that number continues to decline. The model that we have for projections estimates, and we get those projections from the Louisiana Department of Education, a 1% increase in high school graduates. Well, you can see that that trend is not holding up. So we are now looking at that with our partners at the Department of Education saying, hey, these are the projections we're working off of for the model. This is what we're seeing. Could it be? Are we seeing that you have one number of graduates, but this is the number that's given permission for us to see their records? Is this actually decreasing? What is happening? Are we not having private schools? Public schools, what's that phenomenon? So our partners in the Department of Ed are looking at this, but again, you can see not only the decline in the graduates processed, but then you go to that next column and you look at the decline in eligible students. Note the timing. Look at 2018-19 and 2017-18 on a roll. Remember, then we were telling you we are having more students qualify for performance and honors, less growth in the opportunity area, which is a good thing, meaning GPAs are increasing, ACTs are increasing, and here we go. But what happened in 19 and 20 and 2021? Well, along came COVID. And along came a stop out, and along came, are we virtual or are we in person? And along came that rearing of its head of digital inequities among households. and financial inequities among households as the economy responded to COVID. And then if that wasn't enough for the citizens of the great state of Louisiana, then we had Laura, Delta, Zeta, and then Ida.
Yeah.
So you're seeing, so these things are not surprising, but they are impactful. So when you trace that across, you not only see a decline in the number that were eligible, but look at the far right column. You see a decline and decrease in the acceptance rates of TOPS. And you have to start looking at, is this a blip? In a 5-year average, yes, it would be considered to be a blip. But we are going to be taking deeper dives into who is this, which high schools are they in, which areas of the state, which demographics, so that we can begin to do those focus groups that Mr. Capel and Ms. Malvo talked about, which is getting more at the why. So we have to temper this with the 3 below, and you're perfect where you are, Rhonda. We know that you had a decline in the acceptance rate, right? That's the folks that did not show up. We didn't see them this fall, right? But they're eligible to be here.
Oh,
well, we do understand they have a year. So it could be that they enrolled out of state and we'll see them again, right? It could be that they took a year off to work and earn money because you have a very hot job market. It could be that they took a year off to work and they enroll part-time. We will not see them if they enroll part-time because TOPS doesn't pay for part-time enrollment. So again, a trend that we are continuing to watch and dig into. Now keep going up, Rhonda. The next one is decline in enrollment. Keep scrolling.
Try not to scroll too fast or too slow.
That's fine, it's okay. All right, so right now, and there's going to be a chart after this, but we will look at this stat because I think if Rhonda scrolls more, the stat's going to disappear and then the chart's going to be on the next page. You can see that according to the Chronicle, because we were asked, so where are you getting that from? It's like, oh, we're getting that from the Chronicle for national research. They're basing it off of the National Student Clearinghouse, and we're also getting that from Board of Regents preliminary enrollment data. So you're seeing, according to enrollment data for Board of Regents, preliminarily a 2.6% decrease in post-secondary enrollment overall. When you look at that national decline, you're seeing an overall post-secondary enrollment decline. That's graduate and undergraduate of 2.7%. Notice that's tracking pretty closely. And then a national undergraduate enrollment decline when you just isolate out undergrads at 3.1%. Keep that in mind, that 3.1 as we scroll up to the charts. Okay, Rhonda? You're doing a great job, Rhonda.
Thank you.
I would be doing so much worse. I do appreciate you. And they were like, you're going to share your screen. I'm like, no, I'm not. No. So I wussed out. So hats off to you. Okay, roll up some more so we can see the next chart. There we go. Perfect. Okay, so now you can see, you see that 3.1 over there on TOPS recipients? So again, you got Board of Regents saying 2.6, hold that thought, right? And then we're seeing a decline in TOPS recipients overall by the systems of 3.1. Notice how closely that's tracking the clearinghouse.
Yeah.
And the Chronicle's 3.1% when you just isolate out undergraduates. When you add in private schools and proprietary cosmetology, it goes to 3.4. But look at the decrease in proprietary and cosmetology. Yeah. That's one of your parts. So that's where you're getting that bump. So this is, again, sources for where we're getting the data. All right, and scroll up just a little bit. So now we can look at, the next perfect storm, which, if COVID wasn't enough, here comes Laura, Data, Zelta. I think I said that wrong. I'll combine some words. Okay. All right, here we go. That's perfect, Rhonda. So we started to look at what's your denominator, who was enrolled at the time of the hurricanes, right? And that's your all y'all, plural of y'all, 55,819, right? Who was eligible? How many students were eligible to receive automatic hurricane exceptions? That's a big number. That 46,001. Wow. All right, now, how many of them actually were TOPS recipients, right, who enrolled and received those exceptions? 41,405, still pretty good rate of, okay, this is not as bad as it could have been. So this 8,865, which is, okay, so after the hurricanes, they didn't re-enroll or they're not enrolled, meaning we don't see them yet. Now, that when we took a deep dive into that number, because notice the math's not going to work out here. You're not going to be able to subtract these numbers and get 8,865. The double asterisk note tells you why, because this is not just hurricane, right? Because when you look at the single asterisk, you had to be eligible for FEMA individual disaster assistance. You had to be in those affected parishes. But not everyone who's not enrolled may have been a subset of this, right? So why? We saw 34% of the students of that 8,865, either they completed their 8 semesters of TOPS, right? That's great. They graduated or they earned a credential, and they can sit out. Like you can earn a credential and then say, okay, I'm gonna take a time to work and then go back and complete. That's totally legal to do. 56% of those students either have been granted an exception or have not requested or have been granted an exception, and they still may ask to get an exception for the 2021-22 academic year. So we're looking at what does that comprise? But when you look at how many students were eligible to receive and got an exception, then that proportionate number of that 8,865 is like, okay, that's not nearly as bad as it could have been. So it is a contributing factor, but not the most contributing factor. Okay, Rhonda, roll on. Let's do Ida, because see, that wasn't enough for the state to go through.
Is that too much?
No, that's fine. Because what this at the top shows you is for policymakers, you know, when you say granted an exception, this committee knows exactly what that means. But when you're presenting it to policymakers, it's going to be exceptional what, right? And that's why this is there. What high school students could have gotten an exception and which college students could have gotten an exception. Okay, now go up a little bit more, Rhonda, so that the Ida ones come into view more clearly. Keep going. Keep going until Ida's at the top of the screen. There you go. Now, when you look at that, it's like, hey, well, what happened? Lights out. Why are these numbers so much smaller? Look at that asterisk. In this case, it's the double asterisk for Ida. And notice, okay, they had to qualify for FEMA assistance, but look at your much smaller number of parishes. So here you've got a smaller universe of students that were eligible for this Ida exception. Again, when you notice what you're not seeing, number of students, TOPS recipients not enrolled, re-enrolled after the hurricane. Well, you can't see that yet because the jury's still out on spring 2022. And so as the billings for spring 2022 are not in as the majority enough, because we still got some big schools, big billings that aren't in yet. So this is too premature to say what that number is, but around March 1, we will revisit it and update that again. Keep going, Rhonda. Keep scrolling, go to the next page, because that's just the same repeat of high school students, college students, and there we go. All right, and so when you come back, scroll up a little bit more, Rhonda, so that the chart that says corresponding decline in billings comes to the top of the page. Keep going. Perfect, you're on a roll. All right, so notice that you have a 2.2% decline in the billings for TOPS, right? But you've got to take the decline in the billings, right, into account along with the decline in the acceptance rate, along with the decline in how many people were eligible to begin with, because you can't get there from 3.8 with just that. Right? If you got fewer people to bill for, then that's going to be a combined effect. So scroll up just a little bit more, Rhonda, now to where the statement LOSFA spent 51.2% is at the top. Perfect. So what are we tracking right now? And I asked, why are we not looking at the latest bills? And Brett was totally on point. Well, you don't want to do that because, right, you want a point in time last year to a point in time this year, because then it gets totally out of kilter. So 51.2% at this time this year, right? 53.6% at this time last year. And remember, last year, we asked for 1.5 million extra. That's not a whole bunch, right? So that means that some of those phenomena, right, we came really close on estimating those projections and what happened last year. And then you had some factors that combine that no model is going to predict all of this in 1 year. So that brings us to close out with, okay, let's look at what happened in the model that was different from what actually occurred. It assumes a 1% increase in high school graduates. There was actually a 4% decrease. That's your 2020 audience and your 2021 graduates, meaning folks who gave permission for LOSFA to see their records so that we can process them for TOPS. If you didn't give permission, you were not in this universe because we can't see your records. Projection to second point uses a 5-year weighted average for acceptance rates. That would have been 68.8. This is a historically low acceptance rate, 61.2% in TOPS eligible. I have never seen it this low in all of the time that I've been dealing with TOPS. 2% increase in TOPS expenditures. Remember, I told you 17, 18, 18, 19 on the roll, right? So as that 5-year average, you should have been increasing by 2%. Instead, the chart right above it at the top of the screen says you actually decreased by 2.2%. So again, what's the conclusion? Current fiscal year is the first year we've shown a decrease in expenditures while being fully funded. You know, budgetary wise for the legislature, the most positive way you can say it is, you're welcome. And we are not, because of this, requesting an increase in the TOPS projections or funding increase for TOPS going forward this year. And we are going to continue to monitor enrollment and acceptance rates and look at this projection. Again, what we're looking at now is it a blip? Or when you pick up the newspaper or whatever digital source you use for the news and you see hot economy, right? Means more people are going to work and fewer people are enrolling in school. You know, more college students thinking, college-bound students thinking, well, I can make a great living off of TikTok or off of Instagram, or I can go to work right now and make $13 an hour to $21 an hour in the service industry, and I don't have to go to school anywhere. So how are we going to gauge that? We are doing a cross-collaborative. It's in the works now, like in its infancy. We started talking about it yesterday, just sent out the first email of focus groups of secondary students, post-secondary students. We're going to call on, you know, Ms. Lawson, Ms. Merrick's, our folks, Ms. Bailey, all of our folks here to help us and give our team input on, okay, what is the best way to be able to look at the data? And we're going to look at the data first to say, okay, so who's not accepting it? Who's not qualifying? What's that demographic, income, ethnicity, high school, a deep dive, because you got to find that out. Who's not keeping it? As you figure out who's not returning, the same kind of thing, right? And then design those focus groups from there to see what is the current thinking with our students on the value proposition of college and what are their thoughts about going to and staying in post-secondary and what are we going to do with that? Then that should inform and will inform the outreach activities we do, the types of programming and engagement things that we offer. And the bottom line is what we put our money towards with outreach to the schools and working with the counselors, both at the secondary and post-secondary level. And that does it for the executive director's update.
Dr. Boutte, may I ask a question?
Sure.
All right, on this acceptance rate, does that include OPH and TOPS Tech?
Yes.
Okay, so I have a question about what I see potentially happening. These 4-year college and universities that are saying now, we will accept you if you meet this ACT score, or this, GPA without an ACT score. And those students may have a low enough ACT score to not get TOPS OPH, but high enough to get TOPS Tech, but they're choosing to go to a 4-year college or university that does not have a TOPS Tech pathway there.
Gotcha.
So I can see a trend in a decrease in students that are TOPS Tech eligible, not accepting it because now they're going to a 4-year university.
But showing up somewhere else. So that, and
yes, ma'am.
And know that, your ears should be burning because I most definitely texted Shane to say, make sure we connect with Ms. Lawson from the counselor perspective on things that we need to look at. And that goes for everyone else on this advisory board. If you have perspectives that you're saying, hey, this is what I'm seeing, please send that to Shane, Livonia, to Ebony, Tarika. If you want to just send it to one of them, all of them, that's fine, such that as we begin to look at this and do the deep dive, the group that's designing this will take those things into account and say, okay, great point. Because again, that is why we know that our team does phenomenal work, but we also want to say a hats off to each of you on this board, because I really, truly believe that the strength of our advisory board is that we have practitioners here that represent every single system and represent secondary and post-secondary and both private and public, and that you are the boots on the ground, as well as the Department of Education, that give us that, did you look at this? So we appreciate your service and the perspective that you help us keep our true north. So yes, please send any of that. And Shane and Livonia, which of you wants to be the send it to? How do you all want them to do it? Or you want them to send it to Rhonda and then Rhonda filters it to you all?
I like that.
That's
You
fine
like
with
that?
me.
Okay, Rhonda, you are the official send it to, because I think all advisory board members have your email. So if you have things you want to make sure we weigh in and look at, please get that to Rhonda. And then Rhonda, I will send you the folks that are the email. I'll loop you in on the email with the folks that are involved in putting this together.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank
ma'am,
you.
I'll do
I
that.
mean-
Thank you.
This is just my personal experience though with my son too, but I don't know if we want to take a look at because he's in an apprenticeship. I don't know if we've taken, but it's kind of what you were saying about going into the service industry right out of high school,
Yes.
So, I mean, he's one of these statistics because I keep telling him he only had till August and he's like, I'm not going, mama. So,
But again, valuable feedback. And that is the type of thing that we have to understand and look at as we move forward. We need all of those perspectives. So that's great input, Rhonda. All right.
This is Marianne. Dr. Broody, what comes next? So you present this. Where do you go from here as far as presenting this to policy people?
Got it. Next is at the Board of Regents February meeting, we will present this report. This report will be broader in that the commissioner is expecting that deep dive as to who didn't accept, right? Who didn't go? And she wants to see those demographics because she expects that the board will want to see it. We will also be informing the board as to what our plans are with respect to the focus groups. This is another one of the things that she said. They're going to ask you to do it. Be ready to say you're on it and planning it when you present it, which I totally agree. And then the next thing that we will be doing is working, because you have appropriations and Senate Finance coming up. We will be working with those staffers to say, okay, because when you tell a legislator you're giving money back, well, you can get wow, that's great. I can breathe a sigh of relief. You're not requesting for TOPS, but then there are going to be questions as to why, which this attempts to answer that. So that's also going to be educating those staffers, and that's the way that information flows to their members. Once we show them this, they may say, oh, I want you to take a look at this, this, and this. So that kind of this sharing of information along with those next steps, as in looking at the data, then looking at the projection model and looking at what the focus groups say and working on any tweaks we need to our advising and outreach and programming strategies. Those are the next steps. And actually in the one for Regents, we are going to put those next steps there. Know that this is about as hot off the press as you can get it. We've been working on it for 2 or 3 weeks, and we kept getting edits from people above our pay grade as late as yesterday. So I think I sent it last night at 8:30 and this morning at around 9. So it is a total work in progress as we try and strive to get it right and look at it correctly.
Will
I did send it out. I did send it out to all the advisory board
Yes,
members at
thank you.
9:15 this morning. So y'all have a copy in your inbox.
This is very valuable. I, for one, would like to see, as you get and you compile more things and give to the regions, I would like to see that report as it's filled out, because
yes, ma'am, we will.
And maybe other members of this advisory commission would like to see it as well. I just anticipate a lot of policymakers looking to you and to the regions to figure out what's going on here and what can be changed.
Yes.
Because it's certainly not going in the right direction for the state of Louisiana.
It is not. And again, in the 5-year average, fiscal CPA calculation, Mr. Hunt continues to remind me this is a blip, right? But again, with my very global nature, I'm looking at, is it right?
Yes.
Or we've got to keep watching it to see, because again, I am all for technical programs in school. I am all for having students explore different options. But you have to go into this eyes wide open to say, as you push more to technical, to apprenticeships, to the like, you're going to, as fast forward takes off and more students complete an associate's degree by the time they've graduated high school. How can that not have an impact on how many students say, okay, well, great, I'm done, right? I'm going to go straight into the workforce as long as the economy is hot. And I'm not going to, I don't have a need for this. I've already done it. So that's not to disparage any of the things we have going on. We just have to understand if A, then it could impact B, and begin to actually look at that and listen to students to see if that's what it is. And again, Ms. Lawson, your comments, and Ms. Bredeville, your comments this morning are right in that same vein that goes, okay, you got to look at that.
Yeah. And the way above my comprehension and all of that, the population of Louisiana is just not, we're still an out-migration state.
Totally agree.
And so is that, 5 years from now, all of our numbers in Louisiana need to go up as far as getting educated, period, the end. We can't afford this.
Totally agree.
And the legislators, particularly, they don't take the time to appreciate how much this deep dive is. But I personally would be interested, as I'm sure the regions and the Board of Regents, because that's where Dr. Henderson, that's where the rubber meets the road, as it were. When you have decreases like that. Does anybody else have any questions or comments? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Rhonda, for sending that out this morning. Okay, next we have, what do we have, our exceptions?
Yes, ma'am, I'm trying to get it back up, just a second. Robin.
Okay, TOPS exceptional circumstances, Robin?
So this is the only business item for today, I believe. These are the request for exceptions. They have all been run through our in-house committee. We have 7 recommendations for approval today. If y'all have read them, I would hope, before the meeting. So if y'all have any questions, I will be happy to answer those.
Does anybody have any questions? I read through the exceptions and I have no questions about any of them or concerns. I just was anecdotally before the meeting started, just wondering, how likely is it for these students when they stop in and stop out to continue and get that final degree? So if there are no questions, may I have a motion to approve these 7 recommendations?
This is Charmaine. I motion to approve the recommendations provided.
Thank you, Charmaine. May I have a second?
Amy Merritt, second.
Good job, ladies. Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve these 7 recommendations. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Good job. And any opposed? The same? All right, so it's been moved and seconded and approved that these 7 recommendations have been approved. Any public comment?
No, ma'am.
All right, thank you. Any last comments before we adjourn for today?
Go Joe Burrow this Sunday.
Joe Burrow. There you go. Yes.
Notice she said go Joe. She didn't say go Bengals, but she said go Joe.
Yeah. We got that. All right. Last chance for somebody. May I have a motion to adjourn?
Amy Merrick's motion to adjourn.
Thank you. And is there a second?
Christy Lawson, I second.
Thank you, Christy. All right, we got it done. All right. Thank you all for your time this morning, and have a good Super Bowl weekend, I guess.
Yeah, and just note our next